determine its general and specific purposes, to organize the speech in a manner that best achieves those purposes, to ensure the beginning, body, and conclusion reinforce the purposes, and to project sincerity and conviction and control any nervousness she may feel, and to strive not to use notes.
Thank you. Kathy's asking for 9 minutes. She's a data secure strategic, did I say that right? Strategist for Omega ATC, Master of Cybersecurity Management. It sounds impressive. The title of her speech is The Omega Appliance. Thank you. Let's welcome Kathy.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and those of you in the audience who are in the retail business. Tonight, I'm going to introduce you to an amazing product called the Omega Appliance. We're going to talk a little bit about PCI compliance first so that you can understand how the Omega Appliance can help you out, the functions of the Omega Appliance, and we're also going to talk about vulnerability scanning in a little more detail because that's so important. And if we have time, we'll also go into support and pricing. This is a picture of the Omega Appliance. It's a small little black box, and I put it next to a phone so you can see how small it is. For those of you over here, can take a look. Just a little black box, but it is a mighty black box because it is loaded up with some of the newest, greatest security tools in the industry today. But before you can understand how the Omega Appliance fits into your business, it's important to understand payment card industry compliance. Because all merchants today who accept payment cards are required by law to comply with payment card industry compliance. That's called PCI DSS for Data Security Standard. Version 3.1 is the one that we're on right now. Merchants who do not comply are subject to steep fines. They can have their right to accept payment cards taken away from them. And of course, if you have a breach, your company reputation is at stake, as well as the cost of that breach. And I'll take a sidetrack here just to tell you a little bit about one company, Sony. Sony said they had a CFO who said, you know what, it's going to cost us less to pay for a breach than it'll cost us if we have a breach. So they did not secure their system. And most of you have heard the story now. They're running close to billions of dollars in losses. And that's because their movies that had not yet been released yet were stolen and given away online. So in addition to the theft of personal information as well. But I want to focus more on the industry compliance, a little bit on that, and then we'll get back into the Omega Appliance. So there are 12 overreaching requirements in PCI. But under those 12 requirements are 400 controls that you have to adhere to. A control is something that you have to put in place to keep your system secure. So I know you can't see this from back there. This is just the high level to kind of give you an idea what PCI compliance is all about. We don't have time to go into all of it today. But it covers things like making sure that you install a secure firewall and maintain that firewall and make sure it stays secure, that you secure your applications, that you have policies and procedures in place. And the one I would like to focus on the most, because it's probably one of the toughest ones for merchants to understand and comply with, is 11.2, perform quarterly internal vulnerability scans. They have to be clean scans. You have to rescan until you get a clean scan stating that you don't have vulnerabilities. And it has to be performed by a qualified personnel. Now here's some functions of the Omega Appliance. We'll come back to vulnerability scanning in just a moment. It collects and monitors your system logs. System logs record people accessing your system. It records what applications are running. And it also records if something goes wrong. The Omega appliance will monitor what's going on in your network and in your computers, and it will send alerts if it sees something that's amiss. Network monitoring happens continuously with the Omega appliance. It can be set up to monitor for a lot of things, including unauthorized devices being added to the network, devices falling off of the network that should be there that would cause you a problem if that happened. Say an employee decides to just run off with a computer, we'd know about it. And there are numerous things it can alert on. It can alert on a disk drive going to a small amount of percentage of free space. That can cause a business a lot of problems. It'll also alert if your network connectivity goes down. So there are a lot of different things we can set it up for. The next one, PCI DSS 3.1, required internal vulnerability scanning. We're going to spend a little bit more time on that one. So vulnerability scanning is basically scanning the network and your computers to find out what vulnerabilities you have. What ways can criminals get into your network? And it's a very intensive job. It takes a lot of resources. We'll touch on that a little bit more. The methods that have been done traditionally, scanning from the headquarters out to all the different stores to see what's going on. It's a huge problem with that, especially for the retail businesses, because it requires extremely high bandwidth to work properly. And when it happens, the scans use up so much bandwidth and they run for a long time. It slows down your business. Nobody wants to slow down the business, because without business, there's no sense in anybody being there, and no sense in paying for the scans if you don't have a business. We all want you to stay in business. The second method was to lease a scanner from a qualified scanning firm and have a qualified scanner run around to every store and scan locally. Local scanning is faster because you're only doing the small portion of the network at a time. But you paid a very high fee for the lease. You couldn't buy the scanner because they were over $100,000, or if you did, you'd have to be a pretty big company to afford it. And sending someone door to door costs a lot of money too. So locally was a better solution, but it also didn't totally solve the problem. So then along comes the Omega appliance. The Omega appliance is a lot more affordable, and the way it works, and it's just amazing. You purchase, or you can lease, either way, one appliance for each store. One goes into each store. It can scan 2 subnets. And the other really cool thing is when you buy that little black box, you're getting a lot more than the box itself. It connects up to our high broadband internet, transfers the information over a very secure network back to our security operations center, where we monitor, and you also have security specialists on hand to help you resolve the problems that it discovers. So it's an amazing device. It does a great job. And when you have one at each store, guess what happens now? They can run simultaneously. You can run it any time of day or night. How many of you have ever run a defragmentation on your home computer? So if you've ever done that, you know it is so intensive that you start it before you go to bed and let it run all night. Scanning's kind of like that. It's basically checking every single device for millions of vulnerabilities. It takes a long time to run. But with the Omega appliance, it can be done efficiently. So after the scans are run, Omega helps you correct your problems, and we will help you do your rescans. We store your information on your scans, your logs and reports as required by PCI for 365 days. That's another thing that most retailers are not capable of doing. Pricing varies by customer, but to give you a ballpark, if you were to purchase the device, it'd be about $700 per appliance and $50 a month for monitoring. If you lease it, it's approximately $44 a month plus the monitoring fee. So in summary, merchants must be compliant. Compliance requires vulnerability scans, and the vulnerability scans are highly intensive work. but the Omega Appliance solves your problems. So with that, here's my contact information. Feel free to give me a call or an email if you're interested in learning more about the Omega Appliance or the many other services that Omega offers. Thank you.